Good. Thanks, guys. All right. Welcome, everyone. Welcome to Agile360's 8th Annual Executive Technology Exchange. You'll hear it referred to as ETE probably all night and for years to come, but it stands for Executive Technology Exchange. And for those of you that don't know me, my name's Jody Elkins. I'm the Managing Director here at Agile360. And just want to say on behalf of my entire team and our sponsors, to all of our clients and prospects here, thank you so much for taking the time to join us today. So a couple of housekeeping items real quick. If you need to use the restroom, go out this door, hang a right, and you'll find them in the back corner. And if everybody could silence or turn off their phones, that'd be fantastic. So, question? No. All right. So we've got a really great night planned for you. So our good friend, CEO of Citrix, Mark Templeton, will be here to kick things off and share his experience and insights into what this new style of IT actually means to all of us on the ground. He'll be followed by Dheeraj Pandey, CEO of Nutanix. And Dheeraj talk a little bit about how this changing world really impacted his decision to create a different type of infrastructure solution. We'll change the format up a bit after that and move into a panel discussion amongst multiple industry leaders that we'll introduce you to later, and that'll be led by our very own Al Solorzano. So then I know many of you will be excited, if you're an NFL fan, to wrap things up in here. We have NFL Hall of Famer and former Los Angeles Ram, Eric Dickerson, to wrap things up before we head back upstairs to dinner. All right, so I want to just take a couple minutes here to talk a little bit about sort of what we do at Agile360 and maybe even more importantly, how we do it, because it's really important to us and I think it's important to the industry. For those of you that don't know, I spent 18 years on the client side of the business. Years and years and years ago, I used to be technical, but I haven't been for a long time. The last 10 years of my career, I was in senior IT roles, VP and CIO in different industries. And so what we try to do here as a VAR and as a systems integrator is really provide the type of value that I always wanted when I was on your side of the fence. And as easy as I think it should be to find, it's not all that easy to find. So, let's talk about first, we don't try to be all things to all people. What we try to do as an organization is be the best at what it is we do. And we break that down, the things, into 4 different practices. First off is desktop and application virtualization. That's been our niche for a very, very long time. That practice is led by Al Solorzano. And Al, could you stand up so everybody knows who you are? Next, we have a data center infrastructure practice, and that practice is responsible for compute and storage solutions, along with disaster recovery, data center migrations, and data center builds. That practice is led by Richard Florence. Richard, could you stand up wherever you are? Right here, Joe. Oh, hey, Richard. Our networking practice is led by Aaron Granofsky. Wherever Aaron's there he is. Our data center management and cloud services practice is led by Lou Delatorre. There he is in the back. And last but certainly not least, our enterprise managed services practice is led by Kelly Chinnan. Where is Kelly? There he is. So if any of you haven't had the pleasure to meet any of those guys, I really encourage you to take the time to do so. These are some of the smartest and most conscientious individuals I've ever had the pleasure to work with. So, all right, so that's what we do. But like I mentioned before, I want to talk a little bit about how we do things, because I think that's absolutely critical. Those of you that know me know that I could probably stand up here all night and talk about leadership. It's what I get excited about, and I could literally talk about it for days, and some of you have actually probably heard me talk about it for days and probably never want to hear that again. But it is what I get excited about. It's what I care about. It's what I'm passionate about. And I'll keep this very short and simple tonight. we focus equally on two things. And everyone talks about the importance of the client experience. That's easy, right? It's easy to focus on that. It's easy to say that. It's not as easy to deliver that. But what most organizations don't do in our business and in other industries, what most organizations don't do is focus equally on the employees. And that's really what we strive to do. Every decision I make as the leader in this organization is really, I ask those two questions constantly. And we're not perfect. We try to be. And we definitely stay focused on those two things. The results 4 years ago when I joined here, that was a theory in my mind. Honestly, it was a theory. I thought if you did that, what could happen? What would the results be? And trust me, there were a lot of people out there that thought I was crazy and didn't think it would last very long. But the results have actually been amazing for us. In the last 4 years, we've gone from about $11 million in revenue to we're going to do $45 million in revenue this year. Thank you. Thank you, I appreciate that. What I'm most proud of, though, and I think my team would reflect this, say the same thing, we have an almost perfect retention rate. So during that time and during that growth, we don't deal with turnover often at all. And that's very different from the rest of our competition out there. And what that translates into for you as our clients, it translates into more effective delivery, a more quality level experience, deeper knowledge of your environments through multiple people within our organization. That's how we're trying to build this business. And some of the, what I'm most proud of from a recognition perspective is first, we've been recognized by the Orange County Business Journal as one of the fastest growing private companies in Orange County. And more importantly, 2 years in a row, we've made their list of best places to work. So that's the proof inside our industry, outside of our industry, in my opinion, that we're doing the right things. So on that note, could all the Agile360 employees just stand for just a second? I know there's more of you than that. Absolutely. So, thank you. Stay standing. From the bottom of my heart, I want to tell all you guys and gals, it is an absolute privilege to work with you each and every day, and I can't tell you how much I appreciate all that you do every day. These are some of the hardest working people I've ever been associated with, so thank you very much. All right, so one more piece of business I want to talk a little bit about and thank our sponsors. You know, of all the events we do each year, this is always my favorite. And it absolutely just simply wouldn't be possible without the support of our partnerships. So their commitment to us as a partner and their commitment to develop the right solutions to solve your challenges is absolutely critical to our success. Ultimately, it's critical to your success as well. And so I just want to thank a few of those. Huge thank goes out to Citrix. Could all the Citrites please stand for just a second so people know who you are? Another huge thanks goes out to Nutanix. Could all the Nutanix folks stand up for just a second? HP also, huge thanks. Folks from HP, could you stand up? And NetApp. Thank you all so much. A few other sponsors I definitely want to mention. Huge thanks goes out to IGEL, Veeam, and Varonis. So thank you all for all that you do and helping us put on this event. Thank you. All right, so let's get this thing moving. I'd like to introduce you to a friend of mine and certainly a longtime Agile360 partner. He has been with Citrix for 20 years. And during that time, he's overseen growth from one product with an annual revenue of about $15 million to many, many products today with a revenue approaching $3 billion. Absolutely amazing individual. He has inspired me, and I told him this recently. He has inspired me both professionally and personally in my career. And he is one of the most genuine and down-to-earth individuals I've ever had the pleasure of knowing. And I think that says a lot when you're talking about a CEO of a $3 billion company. So please welcome my friend Citrix CEO, Mark Templeton.
Thank you. Okay, I'll get my composure here. Now, 20 years, I started my 20th year in June, and this has been an amazing personal journey that I still pinch myself over, and a tremendous amount of it is the continuity of personal relationships over those 20 years that we built. And I met Mike Stroll when I first joined the company. And that's been an amazing part of the joy, and maybe a little bit sappy, okay? We're not one of those, killer companies in that sense. We're actually a company that believes in actually doing good things and leaving the world better than when we found it, and doing that based upon human relationships and giving customers great business outcomes. I mean, that's what we're about. So thanks to the entire Agile Ensys team, Mike, I can't thank you enough for the many years of friendship and partnership. So I have a couple of goals today. The first one is whenever I have this opportunity to see as many customers in one place, I always start with thank you, all right? We appreciate your business. We appreciate the confidence you've placed in us. We never, ever take it for granted, and we aren't perfect, but we seek that when it comes to caring about your problems, your business, and making sure you're successful. So thank you. The second thing I'd like to accomplish today is because many of you have invested the most precious thing you have, and it's not your budget, it's your career, your reputation. I'd like to talk a little bit about where we're going in the future, and hopefully you'll continue to be part of that, because I think we're at a place where I think the vision that we sort of set out and laid down about 15 years ago is now finally coming to the really fun part. So I'm going to talk today actually about software defining the workplace, okay, and how that will enable you to mobility transform your business and people, okay? So that's the Uber topic today. And echoing what Jody said in terms of how we run Citrix, I like to try to keep things as simple as possible, and we have a very simple formula. It starts with employee value, which is all about culture and a great place to work. And I'm very proud of the kind of place to work we have that values respect, integrity, conviction, and humility in people, and how we brought those people like that together to build a fabulous company. And then the second part of the formula is customer value. And customer value is about having sincere empathy for customers, not only when there's a problem in the moment, but empathy that allows us to predict the kinds of problems and issues that you will face over the horizon, because that's part of our value, part of our job in terms of leading and saying thank you and caring about your business. So this is our formula, and you add these two together. If you're a shareholder, yes, it does equal shareholder value, but honestly, the most important thing that it equals is pride and sleeping well every single night, knowing you're doing something good for customers that you care about. It's really no more complicated than that. And part of that empathy, we imagine, was a video we made many years ago called Virtual Workplace. And you can see it out on YouTube if you Google it. By the way, there's no audio track here. I'm the audio track. But it was a video about our imagination, our inspiration, and what we thought the future would be about when it came to the kind of human and business outcomes you'd be looking for. Multiple types of devices, smoothly roaming between locations, large screens, small screens, audio and video collaboration, being able to share documents and applications seamlessly through firewalls, and driving, in the end, a great business outcome. And if you watch the video, you'll see there's also a human outcome to it as well. And it reflected a set of ideas that we had that we believed in and forged where we are today. This was 2001, okay? I still have that. I designed that little device myself. It's a model. It's not a working thing, all right? And, but, you know, lots of times in technology, until you actually see it and put your hands on it, you know, it's some theoretical thing. You're looking at someone else's opinion on it, you know. And I like to have a personal experience with things. Here's my latest interesting thing. It's Sony digital paper. By the way, this is software-defined paper, in my opinion, all right? And until you see it theoretically, fine. But when you hold it, all right, and you realize this is lighter than a pad of paper, it's unlimited in paper, and it has connectivity and the ability to process PDFs and documents. You know what it doesn't have? It doesn't have a fabulous cloud back end bolted to it. That's where we come in, okay? So, you know, having that personal experience gives you not only an opinion about the future, it allows you to have the conviction to actually invest in it and do it. And that's really, you know, what we've done over the course of many years, starting with, you know, back in the early years of the company where we really were defined all around remote access, you know. And I think, how many of you sort of met Citrix in that context, you know? I mean, this is how most of the world, you know, understood Citrix. But by the way, these are covers of our annual reports. And the way I like to do annual reports, all right, is I like them to document the journey that, you know, and what we see and what we believe, and share that transparently with our investors, all right? So you can see here this access button. It was about secure access. And then we evolved to really thinking about application networking, delivering web apps, okay, and doing a lot of authentication, encryption, acceleration, et cetera, over a network connection to provide a fantastic end user experience. That led to an era around virtual computing, where we invested in apps and data and services, as well as infrastructure, to enable virtual meetings, virtual support, virtual desktops, virtual apps, virtual networks, virtual servers, okay? And now we're kind of moving ahead, because when I look back, these are all technology statements. When I look forward, the future is about, you know, people really don't want to know about technology and how it works. I mean, you know, they just don't. They want to know, what can it do for me to make me better at what I do, to make my business better, to give me maybe a better balance between work and life, whatever those things happen to be. And so we think this whole idea of people adopting mobile work styles in the broadest sense of the meaning of that is where we're headed. And that really is expressed by this idea of a software-defined workplace. So what is a software-defined workplace? Well, first of all, it's actually an environment that is allowing you to not only respond to build for the future of your workplace in a way that allows you to drive greater engagement of the workforce, allows you to optimize workflows and transform them, as well as reinvent the physical facilities themselves for greater collaboration and greater creativity, et cetera. We believe this environment is the environment we're building for a generation that's coming after old guys like me, okay? So my children are millennials. You know, they're in their, well, they're 30, okay? This year, they're both 30. And this is the systems, this is the population we're building systems for. And so they want a collaborative environment to work in. That's where they're going to be attracted to, that's where they're going to stay. That environment, if it allows BYO, that's way more engaging than being handed the 2-inch thick laptop that got defined as a corporate standard. And then giving them this range of digital tools that allows them to actually transform the way they actually get work done, both with company-supplied digital tools as well as personally supplied digital tools. All right? And by the way, if you think of the physical world, right now there's a lot of concern about bringing in personal devices in certain environments, et cetera. But if you take that away, think about the personal tools that you have taken to the office, and can take to the office. But, for example, if you have arthritis in your hand, you can go out and buy a stapler, all right, that has a power capability built into it and take it to the office. No one's going to, bother with that. And so we're going through this process of defining, all right, where are those tools that must be supplied by the organization, and where are the tools that enable people at a personal level that no one in IT, no one in management can possibly be smart enough and predictive enough to know that. And I think that's underlying our idea here. So if you ran into a software-defined workplace in the woods, how would you know one when you saw one? Well, first of all, the tools will be all digital as an input. Completely device independent, so you have complete choice around types of devices and the ownership model that goes with them, whether it's bring your own, choose your own, or use mine, all right? It's independent of any of that. Secondly, workflow continuity. Think of it like Netflix. You can start a movie on a tablet. You can go to your family room and continue it. You can go to your phone and continue it. You can go to a browser and continue it. So making sure there's continuity to workflow. Collaboration in a seamless kind of way that punches through firewalls, breaks down organizational boundaries, and even boundaries of time. What I call borderless data. Borderless data is the whole notion of being able to securely share data across borders in a way that meets compliance and regulations, but enables collaboration and communication. And then security at the contextual level. In the end, trying to secure every aspect of an environment is impossible to do. I mean, you might think it's secure, but it's a false. It just can't work. So we believe that contextual security that narrows the focus down to the person, the device, the data, and the network connection, based upon that specific context, is how to actually solve lots of security problems that we see in the world today. And then this all has to be packaged in a way that provides an irresistible consumer experience. I mean, we're all being held by the people we serve to the kind of experience that we get when we pick up whatever your favorite mobile device is and go to your favorite app store and pick up the favorite apps you use on a personal basis. That's the experience that people want, and we want to deliver that. So this is what a software-defined workplace will look like when we get there. And so what we're doing is we're moving from workplaces to workspaces, moving from very physicality to virtuality. And we have, I think, made a tremendous amount of progress along this path, and no one can explain it better than our customers. So I have a short video. I'd love you to hear this in their words, and then I'll come back and reinforce a few things and talk a little bit about some of the products and projects we're working on. So let's look at the video.
Citrix has more than improved our productivity. It has unleashed innovation.
We hit the tipping point when we started using the Zen desktop. That has been a revolutionary change.
That was the point at which we were doing some things that maybe nobody else in the country was doing.
It's absolutely game-changing. Our adoption of the technology has allowed us to provide better work-life balance. It's allowed us to address the strategic initiatives of the firm. We have a growth model that we are able to implement quickly.
We have truly blended the brick and mortar side of the education business and the online portion of the business to make for a success for 12,000 children across the country.
We partner heavily with Citrix, and it's led us now to be able to change our real estate platform into a flexible environment where people are free to move around the building, move around the floors, change teams, work from home.
The operational benefits, the energy benefits, the carbon emission benefits, the investment we've made, we get back within 2 years.
We're virtualized end-to-end from the data center to the desktop.
When people have a completely mobile workspace, they can work on their terms, not on technologists' terms. Essentially, Citrix has freed us to focus on what matters most.
So what you should hear in that is very little technology talk and lots of talk about business and human outcomes. And you know, that's what we mean when we talk about the mobility transformed business and people. So, you know, as we constantly work on message and trying to explain all this in simpler and simpler ways, you know, we found that when you say mobility or enterprise mobility, a typical customer will say, okay, fine, go over there and stand over there with 1,000 other you know, vendors and all talking about mobility and enterprise mobility. When we talk about it in the sense of mobility transformed beyond what's pictured in most minds, like device or a mobile app or, you know, or work from home. It's all of these things built on a common platform so that you can get all the benefits of mobility transforming business. And the list is long. I'm just going to sort of highlight these things. And these value propositions are much more around the business value than sort of getting technology value as a primary purpose. And I think that most technology organizations are being held much more accountable to the corporate initiatives of, you know, line of business leaders, et cetera, than making sure all the bits and bytes are, you know, somehow aligned up. So, for example, just owning fewer devices because you can deliver all your services over any connection securely, you know, without worrying about what the endpoint is. So you don't have to own these things. And then, you know, it affects your real estate costs. It affects your, you know, what costs of infrastructure, et cetera. You know, moves, adds, changes. Really expensive in a physical world. When you think about M&A, when you think about a reorganization, when you think about moving a department from one place to another, you deal with all of the physical aspects of that. In this kind of world, you know, it's like, hey, no, you're on a new team, you go there, and everything, your mobile workspace follows you there. Huge value propositions in terms of speed and cost. Human capital. I mean, think about employee engagement and what you get with 1% increase in retention and 1% increase in onboarding speed. You know, that's real money. And that's money that, you know, the head of HR, the CEO, the head of lines of business understand, you know, in terms that are outside of technology conversation. Carbon footprints, you know, maybe you have an initiative in your organization. You know that I actually saw a presentation you know, a few years ago by Shane Robeson, who was the former CTO at HP. And he showed this pie chart, this giant pie chart with this tiny sliver. And he said, you know, if we took every data center in the world, completely forklift it to the greenest thing we have, it would only change the carbon footprint, you know, of businesses, you know, like I think it was 1 or 2%. It was this tiny sliver. And so the natural thing to ask is, what's the rest of this? All right. It turns out the rest of it was a combination of manufacturing, okay, and the carbon footprint of your facilities and the commuting of employees. So if employees can commute differently, if your facilities can operate at higher densities, you get huge leverage on real estate, on carbon, and on engagement. So these are big ideas behind a software-defined workplace. Security, big deal, all right? And in this kind of environment, you're enabling the kind of sharing and the kind of visibility to what's going on where you can contextualize and verify and simplify how you approach security. Related to that is readiness. Not only, we talk about DR, but I don't know about you, but what's even more important in this day and age is cyber disasters. We're seeing those, in the news. I don't need to remind you. How many of you have received a new Visa card recently? Okay, right. You didn't request one, but you needed one. You get the idea. Improving productivity, connectivity, and being able to have visibility into process and workflows so that you can make them more efficient. So just some of the bigger ideas around where the big business value is here and where the leverage is that doesn't ever appear on a TCO worksheet. It'll never appear there, okay? So how does this sort of fit into the universe? Well, I think we all know what a software-defined data center is. It's this combination of software-defined compute, storage, and network, all right? And it really, the essence of it is moving a data center from being very physical to very virtual, and we're, along the way on this path, and we think it's really important stuff. The purpose of it, however, is to output apps and content. And where those apps and content go is where? To the workplace, where people, want a consumer-like experience. And we believe that the phenomenon is the same, is then, moving the workplace from being physical to virtual along the dimensions of people, places, and data. And so getting similar kinds of benefits, but in different terms. In a software-defined data center, you get speed of provisioning. In a workplace, you get speed of onboarding. In a data center, it's time to availability of a server or infrastructure. Here, it's time to productivity. Operational efficiency versus business agility. Very much bottom line CIO centric, and this is very top line CEO line of business centric. So very complementary, all right? Not either or. Actually, both things are important. In fact, they're important in an overall architecture. But the data center really is driving very much operational and technical outcomes. We believe a software-defined data workplace drives business and human outcomes. So now, how does this stack together? Well, certainly at the bottom, you have the data center, both the private and public infrastructure as a service. Their purpose is to output apps and content. And we believe that right here is where the aggregation, signal processing, acceleration, security, and mobility gets created through products that we make that are around delivering mobile workspace apps and delivery infrastructure. And what makes Citrix, I think, very unique is our long-standing focus on this idea that we call anyness, so that you can plug any kind of content in this, whether it's application or data content that we provide, like in our great products like GoToMeeting or ShareFile, or third-party content, that's Salesforce or legacy types of apps. We don't really care. It's sort of any. Here, any device and form factor that you want to deliver to, and then to be able to build all of that on top of hybridization of the infrastructure underneath it, whether it's private or public or a hybrid cloud. And so what does it take to do that? Well, we think, a few pieces. First of all, you have to be able to process and deliver Windows, web, and mobile apps in a secure way. That's what Zen App, Zen Desktop, and Zen Mobile do. I like to think of them as application delivery controllers. You plug the app into these controllers, and it does all the right things to then project a signal that goes over a delivery network that you want to be secure, you want it to be high performance, and you want it to work across all of the scenarios of latency and bandwidth, whether it's an MPLS network at one end of the spectrum or a satellite highly latent network and everything in between. And that's where our NetScaler product line comes in. Third piece is to offer integrated workspace apps and data. So supplying some of those core apps for mobile productivity and mobile workspace, really key to our strategy. So if you're familiar with GoToMeeting, which is the one of the top web collaboration apps in the world, ShareFile, one of the top document sharing apps in the world, and our Works apps, which I'll talk a little bit about in a minute, are all part of that and plug into this at the back end. And then underneath, you need the ability to build on top of private, hybrid, and public cloud infrastructure with a set of what we think of as aggregation services, because you want to be able to not be locked into any particular cloud and any particular service. And that's the role of our Zen Server Cloud Platform, and something new that we actually have not talked too much about. It's a company we acquired not too long ago called Scaled Extreme. That really is in the automation and autonomics space, so that you spend less time managing the underlying infrastructure and more time working with and designing irresistible experiences. Just a couple of product things. We recently announced the availability of Zen App 7.6. I mean, this is a milestone release for us. It has super high-speed access, because people, when they click or they tap, they want the app now. So a lot of technology went into that. Storage, a lot of attention paid to storage and IOPS by doing memory-based caching as part of the product. Okay, so getting a lot of lowering cost, but also increasing the performance of the user experience. Fully supporting ShareFile on-demand sync. So any app you put on to Zen App, you can put the on-demand sync component in, and it can talk to ShareFile data fabric. And so wherever that app gets stood up, the data is available on demand. It doesn't get replicated. It stays wherever you want it to be, and it gets pulled automatically. Got a lot of app migration capabilities as Windows XP goes end of life. XP, I guess someone forgot that on there. Important in government markets, FIPS and common criteria. And then many of these capabilities we have made available for customers that are running Zen App 6.5. So, a lot of attention paid to giving customers a bridge from Zen App 6.5, making those environments more capable so that it's easier when you're ready to move to 7.6 and beyond, that it's much easier and smoother. Zen Mobile 9, we just released this in July. It's our enterprise mobility solution. It's very comprehensive. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on it. We're really excited about the growth. It's been amazing. So we've got about 10 million devices under management, which also includes the secure delivery of apps and data, apps that actually are part of the platform. So there's a secure email app, WorksMail, it's fantastic, a notes-taking app, ShareFile itself for document sharing and sync, and then we've added 3 apps to the suite, a simple app for editing and simple creation of Word documents, Works Web that allows you to have a micro VPN into your data center so that you can expose intranet apps on any mobile device securely. And then something called Works Desktop that actually allows you to enroll a Mac or a PC, laptop or a desktop, so that you can get mobile access to it on iPad, I shouldn't say iPad, smartphone, tablet, etc. All right. So, you'll see more apps come to the suite here, and this is a real differentiator. And the idea is pretty simple. All right. Zen Mobile needs to supply the core mobility capabilities that the people you serve need: communications, data, and workflow. And it also has a very powerful, which I won't get into, capability for wrapping native apps that you build yourself or you license from third parties that give you security and feature control, actually. And we have a big ecosystem, including ourselves. So GoToMeeting is certainly part of the ecosystem and works beautifully with Zen Mobile. So one last thing is to focus in on something we announced back in May, and that is something that customers were asking for. It's like, gee, delivering Windows apps, web apps, mobile apps in one infrastructure. Why can't you make that sort of one license? And we said, okay. And so we introduced the Citrix Workspace Suite, and that gives you one license for all of these capabilities to deliver and process any mobile app, any web app, any Windows app or desktop to any device. Okay. All right. So there are the products, and now to kind of zoom back out. So when we think about you as customers and our vision for you in this sort of new style IT, it's new style, but it is new style because it's about moving IT away from being a gatekeeper to being a shopkeeper. Okay? So a shopkeeper provides services. That's the focus of a shopkeeper. And so enabling you as an application service provider, regardless of the type of application, is the underlying core mission here that then enables the mobility transformation and the software-defined workplace. And it's not unlike the way Netflix works. Okay? It's very, very similar. I mean, if you think about Netflix, they don't own NBC, CBS, HBO, et cetera, all right? But they do aggregate the content from all of them, all right? As well as they commission unique content that differentiates Netflix service. Secondly, they have a head end that brings all these different types of media types together and does a lot of analytics, et cetera, predicts what you might want to see, all right, and then delivers it over the network. Now, the network's a big deal here, right? We all see, I mean, last Christmas, did you try to, everyone that was trying to watch a Netflix, film didn't have a good experience last Christmas. So there's a big, big battle and big priority on controlling that weakest link in the chain, and it is the last mile, the delivery mile. And by the way, that's why we're so focused on the delivery network and the app-fluent, what we call an app-fluent network fabric. And then the last piece is the service. I call it a service agent. It's in DirecTV, it's the cable box, or Comcast, it's the cable box. With iTunes, it's the Apple TV. With Netflix, they're apps that run on any device or a browser or whatever. So that's the vision for you, all right? They are an entertainment service provider. You become an application service provider. They are driving or engagement economics, because when we flip on our media, we have choices of where to get aggregated content and how do they engage us. They do that by doing some really special things in the head end and having access and ability to aggregate across everything. So we think that like Netflix, creating this notion of continuity, of context across people, devices, apps, and data is, what is underlying this and how you get this mobility transformed enterprise. So I know this sounds weird, but there are three things that are shaping the future: DOS, Mac, and PC. All right? Now, I'm sure you're wondering where this is going. All right? All right, so DOS means don't own stuff. Okay? Own what you need to own. Own the experience. Own the aggregation. All right? Own the productivity. All right? Don't own the stuff you don't have to own. It's kind of, that simple. Right? Secondly is Mac. All right? Maybe you can guess. Pay attention to the cost and the reality of moves, adds, and changes, and how technology can actually enable you to drive the cost of that and the speed of moves, adds, and changes to a fraction. So that's the future. By the way, you pick up and move, around iTunes or Netflix or whatever. It's real easy. No one's doing any work to allow us to move, add, or change a device or a place that we want to listen or be entertained. And the last one is a little bit out there, and it's PC. And in my mind, it stands for predictive curation. So when we love an experience, whether it's on Amazon, here's Mark's store, or on Netflix, breaking recommendations, and lots of other, Google Now, there are a lot of examples of this. This is about doing curation of apps, content, data, et cetera, and doing it on a predictive basis so that we, have a better experience and are more engaged and sticky to that service. All right? So we think that's an important part of the future. So we are building, I think, some amazing technologies, trying to put your mobile workspace at your fingertips so that you can get your apps, your data, et cetera, any device, blah, 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 including something we call your workspace in your pocket, okay? So if you think about, I'm not going to demo because I don't have time. If you think about this phone, it doesn't matter if it's Android or a Windows phone or an iPhone. It has all the CPU, GPU, connectivity that you need to do anything. What it doesn't have is all the I/O you need to do everything. So for example, if you need a larger screen, keyboard, and mouse to do some very focused, let's say you're an engineer or you're a writer. For me, when I'm going to sit down and write a significant document and memo to the board, I'm not going to tap it out on a tablet, okay? Because I want multiple things and I'm in creation mode, all right? So this has all the capabilities and it's in your pocket. So what if you could go into your office, which it should recognize, right? And it should be able to connect to the I/O devices you have, the screen, keyboard, mouse, and allow the mobile apps to stay here and your larger screen where you're doing creation to be there, all right? It's all in this, and you'll see it soon, okay? So this whole notion of context and continuity and a workspace that can respond to what you're trying to do, where you are, what the resources are, is where we're going to reinforce this long held fundamental belief that has driven Citrix a long time, and that is work is not a place. And when you apply this belief system plus our business formula for 25 years, you get, I think, the kind of partner and company that cares, and a company that cares about helping people work better and live better at the same time. So once again, thank you very much, and I appreciate the time here with you and your business. And now I'd like to hand it back over to Jody. All right, thank you.
Thanks, Mark. So I'm going to try to move along pretty quickly. Prior to our next speaker, prior to his current role, he was the VP of Engineering at Aster Data, which is now Teradata, where he helped build both the product and the engineering team from the ground up. He's also managed the storage engine group at Oracle and has co-authored numerous patents in the area of distributed databases. His company has grown from 150 employees to 700 plus employees in the last 18 months. He has a 4-year-old boy and twin 6-month-old girls. So I'm surprised he's even standing, much less here to speak with us tonight. So very lucky his wife allowed him to come, I'm quite sure. Please help me welcome the co-founder and CEO of Nutanix, Dheeraj Pandey.
Should work? Okay, good. Well, thank you, everyone, and thank you, Mark, for this opportunity to speak right after you. I do want to point to one thing here, which is I couldn't resist looking at this photograph. Looks like it was dedicated just for Mark Templeton. If you look at even the shirt, actually. So that's Clive Davis for you for today. Well, I have minus 5 minutes to speak, so thank you so much. No, not at all. I think it was a pleasure just seeing Mark speak. He's a legend. There's so much to learn from someone like him who's built this company from $15 million to $3 billion. It's humbling to have him speak right before me. I think to talk about that kind of a legacy is going to be a moment of pride for us, maybe a decade from now. So thank you for really showing the way for entrepreneurs like us. I founded this company 5 years ago. We were just 3 people. And now we are more than 700 people. We're exactly 5 years in age. Started really figuring out how to really build the next generation architecture for the data center. So I'm going to quickly move on this because we don't have too much time. And I know the panel also has to begin in the next say 10, 15 minutes as well. So I really wanted to figure out what to name this talk. And I figured, Citrix and VDI and Nutanix go together. So let's start with this notion of building data centers that are not just built for VDI, but for everything else as well. And if you look at the transformation that's happening, and I'm sure all of you actually know this, these are all tailwinds for a young startup like Nutanix. Obviously, spindles are giving way to flash. We used to talk about virtual servers, and now we have this notion of virtual everything, virtual load balancers, virtual firewalls, virtual VPN gateways, and of course, virtual desktops as well. Everything used to be in private data centers, and now most people want the flexibility of hybrid clouds. Big iron purchases. I think there was a lot of big equipment that was being acquired with a lot of speculation. People really wanted to see through the next 3 years. And that is giving way to this cloud way of consuming infrastructure. People don't want to buy everything up front. They don't want to speculate everything up front. And they want to consume fractionally. They want to pay as they grow. They want the infrastructure to be elastic fabric as opposed to having something that really scales up. And lastly, I think this idea of specialist IT giving way to generalist IT. I think in the last 20 years, we created a lot of silos, where there were specialists that would do just one thing and one thing only. And that is moving away to something that people are saying, why can't the same person do actually many more things? So this is actually a pretty good, important trend that you will see defines the future of not just Nutanix, but data centers in general. So this is what we've done in the last 20 years. And it's a lot of details. Going back to what Mark just mentioned, that we talk about technology and even more technology and protocols and even more protocols. And then finally, we just figure out how to duct tape all these and have certifications and expertise and so on. And I think it's creating a problem of gargantuan proportions. It's obviously about silos, and it's about bottlenecks, and it's about continuing to buy these big mainframe-like systems. And this is what the enterprise looks today, most of it actually. And obviously we talked about virtualization for the last 10 years, but it has not solved this problem of complexity. Now, if you compare that to what's happening in the web scale data centers, they look really, really different. They look a whole lot simpler. There's a lot of homogeneity in terms of hardware. They're not really buying a lot of SAN. They're not really buying a lot of blade servers. There's really no specialist hardware. It's a lot of rack mount servers and a lot of software on top of it. So a big transformation is happening in the data center as we speak. And for those of you who just heard about the Evo family of products that VMware is talking about, exactly that. It's moving away from blade servers and really going to rack mount servers. Basically what the cloud guys did in the last 10 years is what VMware would like for you as an enterprise to do as well. But that requires a lot of software, I think, and the big guys, the cloud companies actually built a lot of software, storage software, systems management software, to really make rack mounts work. So that's the big transformation that we have also been tracking as from the beginning of Nutanix's time. And this whole idea of using rack mounts really begins to get into this notion of convergence, where you can really think about a single platform, a single x86 based hardware, where software is doing everything. You have applications running in software, you have storage running in pure software, you have security, networking, all these appliances running in pure software. So this idea of convergence really caught up about 3 years ago, and people said it's the biggest enemy that we have is time. We don't have time to do things. We take forever to stitch to all this infrastructure before we can even do the first application. So there were coalitions that were formed in the last 3-4 years that said, look, we'll deliver to you this idea of convergence. It's factory staged, it's pre-built, pre-assembled, pre-tested, pre-measured, and people liked the value of this whole thing. The only thing was it was same old gear that was actually put together in a rack, and there was a whole support system. It's well, if there's a converged support, you can call 1-800 line and so on. But internally, if you open this whole thing up, it's basically the same old blade server, the same old storage appliance, and so on. And the idea of Nutanix was to really take this time to value, speed to market to the next level. We said, look, how about we put all this stuff in pure software that can start really small? So it's really miniaturizing your entire experience of a data center, and yet giving you the freedom to go and scale it out as you needed more and more of it. So that's really Nutanix for you, and people are calling it hyperconvergence. It's a really new trend about being able to run anything and everything in pure software. Mark talked about software-defined data center. That's an implementation of a software-defined data center for you. So if you were to go back to, what could a first smartphone look like with the current approach of convergence, where you're just taking existing hardware, existing storage boxes, existing switches, existing blade servers, and put them all together, that's what convergence looks today. And that's exactly how the smartphone would have looked like if you just put all this stuff together. And it is valuable. It's valuable because you don't need multiple devices. You still have a lot of it coming together. But then we know exactly what true convergence is. I mean, what happened to the consumer world is convergence. You look at this idea of a separate calculator, a separate camera, a separate music player, a separate Rolodex. All these things are special purpose devices, and they're all apps in this new world now, on top of a new platform, which is either iOS or Android. So the consumer world has gone through convergence in the last 5 years through pure software. And that is what's going to happen to the data center. Now, you'd say, so what is Nutanix? What did Nutanix do to really try to build this for the data center? If you go back to the idea of a smartphone, Apple really had to pick a killer app. They said, what's the killer app that's going to make this smartphone really usable? And they said, it's music. So you build this killer app for the smartphone, people will buy this new thing. So the biggest convergence they did was iPod and phone coming together. It was not email, it was not camera, it was not a calculator or anything else. It was iPod and phone coming together. So the killer app for software-defined data center was a big question mark for us. But we really made a big bet. We said, look, the killer app is not networking, it's storage. If you can make storage work in this new software-defined approach, then it can be bought and sold in the marketplace for $20, $30, $40, $50, $100,000. And that has what really been the biggest reason for our success. We'll talk a little bit about business traction and so on, but it's the ability to pick the killer app for this software-defined data center itself. You could go back to BlackBerry and say, well, email was the killer app for the smartphone. It wasn't the killer app, as we all know. Email came to both Google Android and Apple iOS as well, but it was music that really started this whole thing going. So what really happens to all of this stuff? I mean, again, going back to what Mark said, this is a lot of technology that we actually came to build in the last 20 years, and probably for the right reasons. We didn't have 10 gigabit Ethernet. We had to keep them physically separate because there was central management was actually the right thing to do. Otherwise, these big Unix servers were not really gelling well with each other, and there were all islands of storage and compute and so on. So what we did 20 years ago was the right thing to do. But in the last 20 years, a few things have happened. Obviously, the emergence of flash that can actually sit on the server, the idea for 10 gigabit Ethernet, which is faster than fiber channel for the first time. In fact, there's 40 gigabit Ethernet, which is even faster than fiber channel. And of course, the fact that virtualization became this workhorse where you can run anything and everything, not just your Exchange and SQL and Oracle and desktop and so on, but you could also run your storage app. Nutanix is basically creating that storage app that runs as a virtual machine on top of this next generation software-defined data center. And in the process, we get rid of all the stuff and put it all together in these servers that actually run compute and storage together. Now we are also working a lot with the networking folks to figure out how to really put network as part of this convergence story as well. And you'll see a lot of that coming in the next 12 months. But eventually this will create a pane of glass that you can really manage top-down, where you don't care about LUNs and volumes and file systems and a lot of low-level things that were artifacts the last 20 years of innovation, but you'll care about applications and virtual machines and things like that. So just one more level of detail, if you were to double-click on Nutanix, we're really building the software-defined storage to replace storage appliances, and we are saying it will have everything that you ever come to expect from your storage appliances. Everything. There's nothing that will actually back away from compared to what the big storage appliance companies have actually talked about. So that's kind of the left brain of Nutanix. Even though it actually sits in the right here, it's really the left brain of this company. And then the right brain of this company is really building the next generation pane of glass. And there's an opportunity for us to go and meld hypervisors and computing and storage and even networking into a single pane of glass that can be analyzed and debugged and really looked at top down as opposed to bottoms up. Some things about networking, some things about storage, some things about compute. So there's a lot of emphasis that we're actually giving to this pane of glass itself. And we believe that what we've done organically with a lot of focus on visualization and design and big data techniques to really manage a lot of this data coming out of these components really differentiates us from everybody else. And of course, all these things share a lot of web scale foundation. Really this company was built with a very basic idea. Can we build a Hadoop for VMware? For those of you who actually have heard of Hadoop as a big data framework, Hadoop came and disrupted Teradata and Oracle and a lot of these data warehousing guys. And it was about flattening compute and storage together without the need for any kind of a storage appliance. And I think the genesis of Nutanix was we need to do the same except for every other app. It could be virtual desktops and SQL and SAP and Citrix and VMware, and every app out there needs to run on this flattened infrastructure. So that's what we've done. I think that the core of this company is this web scale foundation that uses a lot of things that the Googles and the Facebooks have used to build a lot of apps. But then to really bring it to the ground and to the enterprise, we are replacing a lot of NetApp and EMC and a lot of storage appliances out there and putting a lot of those features that we need to make sure that they're exactly the same. They mimic a storage appliance for the last 20 years. And of course, we are building a lot of this consumer-grade design in this pane of glass, which will help you manage this converged infrastructure. But there's equal emphasis on making all these apps work for you. So as a company, we're taking all this new generation technology and trying to meld it with the old generation apps itself, last 20 years, which is where 99% of the spend is, as opposed to just big data and NoSQL and Cloudera and Hadoop and so on. So as a company, you can look at us focusing a lot on Citrix and VMware and all the Microsoft apps, Oracle, SAP, Epic. All these apps will now work in this flattened, converged infrastructure. And we're also future-proofing ourselves by really going and melding all this technology with AWS, Amazon AWS, and Microsoft Azure, and so on. Because we believe that the world will actually be agnostic to location. And the only way to really build the next generation infrastructure is to think of it as something that begins with a device that you own, but it ends in the ether transparently. And that ether is what this public cloud will actually be. And any company that can provide that location independence so that you don't really care where your apps run, as long as you have easy ways to migrate them back and forth, which is basically the mechanisms, and provide those policies on top that tell you exactly when to move, what to move, provides you recommendation of when to move what based on economics and utilization and things like that, is going to be a killer company of the next decade. Now, just coming to the business, Nutanix, we've done pretty well in terms of repeat business, which goes back to this factor of empathy that Mark talked about. We are very empathetic to our customers, and that has given a lot of repeat business to this company. So for every dollar that customers have spent, the next 12 months they've gone and spent $2.1 more. On average, this 70% of customers owns about $500,000 worth of Nutanix each. And a lot of it goes back to this land and expand strategy that we actually have, where we begin with any one app, and then we start to go to number 2, 3, 4, 5, and so on. And this is what's growing the total addressable market of this company every single day. Because we start with one of these, probably just look at VDI, and then all of a sudden customers are scratching their heads and saying, well, looks like I can use it for X, Y, and Z as well. So they go from there to test and dev, or to these business critical apps, or to a big data app, branch office, DR. All these things actually become the second, third, fourth, fifth kind of workloads that people start trying us on. And that has been the reason for our sort of precocious success in the last 5 years since the beginning of time. So on that, I just wanted to show you a video of our customer base here. So the size of the dot is the size of the customer. How many blocks did they actually buy? And the color is basically the models. There's storage heavy, compute heavy, VDI, SQL Server, different kinds of customers. So obviously, a lot of these customers actually started with something really small. And I think that's very important. We don't really go and try to sell something really big up front. We have a very large customer in the Midwest that's worth more than $15 million for us, but they started as a $400,000 account, and over the last 12 months has done like 10, 12 transactions, started the test and dev, more test and dev, SQL clusters, Citrix, and now more test and dev. So I think that's how we grew this account in just last 12 months. There is some very large customers in SoCal that basically started with Citrix and went on to do Oracle. We compete with Oracle Exadata and so on. So you'll see tons of examples here. We have a customer here that I was so humbled to speak with. He's an early adopter, started when we were basically just 3 years in age. And today I heard him speak and I was really humbled because he said, when are you guys going public? I want to own the stock. I'm like, wow, that is really palpable. The fact that we've been able to not just make you successful, but we're itching for us to go public and own the stock means something for us as well. So thank you, everybody who's actually brought us here, employees, our customers, partners. Look forward to actually engaging you more and building data centers that are more beautiful and scalable. Thank you.